Well, hello, everybody. You know that this is one of my very, very favorite things in the whole world, and that is museums, design, architecture, and housing. Put it all together, and this is a real treat for me. Now, there is a woman who I'm going to be interviewing right now who I met for the first time when I was a spectator to her terrific presentation at Modernism Week here in Palm Springs. And you know, I always show you something that I'm wearing that has to do with the topic. And here are my modernism earrings. And this was created in Bakelite by one of the artists there in Modernism Week. Now, you may not want to get any of them, but if you did, you can't, because this is the only one. So we have a lot of fun in Modernism Week. And one of the things we do is we really enjoy going to what they call camp and listening to presentations or at the Annenberg at the Palm Springs Art Museum. And there I met Natascha Drabbe, and she is the executive director and founder of Iconic Houses Network, all the way from the Netherlands. I'm so happy to be speaking with you today. And before we do anything, just tell us a little bit about founding this really important organization for small museum houses. People may not even know that such a thing exists. Tell us about the organization.
Well, I'm trained as an architectural historian, and then I married a Dutch architect who designed his own house. And he was I say was because he passed away in 1999, unfortunately, at a much too young age, 56. But he designed his own dream house in the Netherlands, in Utrecht, close to Amsterdam. And that was so innovative that it won the Rietveld Award, and it was on the cover of the Yearbook of Architecture, and it became a listed monument within 7 years. And so after he passed away, I thought this is too special, this house, to keep only to myself or to my closest friends.
Yes.
And because I travel, also, I love to travel and I love to see other people's homes and to experience architecture, because that's what architecture is all about. You have to experience it, and just the exterior, yeah, that's also important, but you have to be inside. And so I thought to open up the house for architecture aficionados and students and the professionals once a month. And um, so I'm giving these tours every first Sunday of the month since 2008, I think. And then I encountered all kind of issues that museums, regular museums, also face with. For instance, do I allow people to use my restroom?
Yes,
Can
of
they bring in
course.
their backpacks?
Right,
Uh,
right.
I don't have cameras in my house. I don't have people who watch them. I'm giving the tour. And so what do they do behind my back? Do they take a book from my bookshelves, or do they put it in their bag? What do I charge? So I thought, instead of finding all these solutions myself, I might just as well join a network and learn from my peers. But then there was not such a network, not for architects' houses. There is an international network of house museums, but there are a lot of museums then where famous musicians or writers.
Historic figures like where
Yeah,
Washington
and
lived and that sort of thing. Sure, we have that all over
yeah,
the US,
and
but not architects' own homes. Yeah.
exactly. And those are the buildings that have all these issues with restoration, conservation, because they most of the times were so experimental, especially the houses that architects built for themselves, because for their clients, they always, when a client pays a lot of money for it, they
Right.
want to be assured.
They have to listen to the client, right?
But for
Yeah.
themselves, they can do whatever crazy stuff they come up with, and if it doesn't work, they just change it. And so I did research to these architects house museums, and then after a few years of research, I contacted 100 directors. And then the directors of Falling Water and the Schindler House and the Alvar Aalto Foundation, they responded positively. And I thought, well, there were 30 of the 100 who responded positively, that they wanted to meet each other at conferences, that they wanted to be visible on one website, so that potential visitors could find them easily. And So I thought if these people think it's a good idea, then probably it is, and I should push it forward. And in 2012, the website iconichouses.org was launched, and we now have almost 200 modern house museums
Wow.
worldwide that are affiliated with us. And our goal is to share knowledge within among the professionals, but also, of course, to enthuse the
The public,
aficionados to come
yes.
and visit those houses.
Sure. So you'd see, this is a story about iconic houses. This is a story for you guys about wonderful museums that you can go see. But it's also a story about how one person can make a huge difference. So if you've been thinking about doing something and you see a need for it, please use this as an inspiration. Please use Natascha's work, one person seeing a need for herself, going out and creating this foundation. Now let's take a look. First of all, we're going to be showing you some pictures of your home. And better than showing you those pictures would be for you to go visit. And for those who don't know, I love Amsterdam. I go there frequently because I'm a collector of Flemish art, and that's where the museums are. But it's also a place where there's a lot of architecture and individual homes that you could see. Now, you're very close to Amsterdam. How would they go see your particular house?
Absolutely. Utrecht, you would pronounce it probably Utrecht, but Utrecht is a 30-minute train journey from Amsterdam. So very, very close. And in Utrecht, there is the only UNESCO World Heritage listed house of the Netherlands, which is designed by Gerrit Rietveld. He was an important architect of the style group in the 20s. And this house is very close to my house, and the architect who designed my house, or my late husband, he was a younger generation architect, but he was also influenced by Rietveld. And in May, we organize, Iconic Houses organizes a whole weekend in Amsterdam, starting on Friday afternoon, the 24th of May. And we will gather with an international group of a maximum of 90 people. And then we will visit, well, it will be lovely because first we are going to meet at the Museum of the Canals, and Amsterdam is of course famous
Beautiful.
for its ring of canals and the beautiful mansions that are there. And we will have a canal cruise, and then we will visit the Museum of the Canals, where they explain how these houses were built on stilts. And then on Saturday, we will visit the museums, the house museums. And the Amsterdam School is a style period in the 1910s and 20s, where a few architects were built beautiful housing blocks so residential blocks with apartments for humble people who worked in factories, and they call these the palaces for the people. And it's called the Amsterdam School, and there is a museum with a model home in such a housing block that we're going to visit. They also show in a container, they have a remake of a slum dwelling, and you can see the difference, because if you would just visit that house, you think, oh, this is a normal house. It has a kitchen, has a bathroom, it has 2 bedrooms. But in 1910, a lot of people didn't have separate kitchens and bathrooms and bedrooms, and they lived in slums. So they have made a remake of a slum in order to see the huge difference in hygiene, in privacy. And so the whole life for people was much better than before. And actually, Amsterdam is famous for its housing. So there are
Yes.
not so many. There are, of course, beautiful mansions, 17th century mansions along the canals. But in the 20th century, Amsterdam was famous for its housing. And so multi-residential housing blocks. And also after Second World War, there was an enormous need for houses. And so we also visit a museum apartment in out in the western part of Amsterdam. So those are the official museums. But the interesting thing always when we organize tours, we just want to see the best of the best. Also, if it's not an official museum, but if it's a private house. So we are going to visit some of the iconic buildings from Amsterdam. The first skyscraper, it was only 17 floors, but it was the highest building of the city in the 30s. And so we are going to visit 2 apartments of an architect and an interior designer who lived there. We are going to see artist studios, a housing block from the 30s, where there are sculptors, the ateliers of the sculptors and painters. Yeah, and then we also are going to visit the most iconic new buildings that were completed in 2022. And in Amsterdam, we also have parts that are built on the water. So there are houses built on the water,
Yes.
but there's also new created land. You know, the Dutch people, we live below sea level,
Right.
and we know how to deal with water, and we also know how to make new land on the water, what was once water. So we have these new neighborhoods where we also visit the most iconic multi-residential housing blocks. One is designed by Bjarke Ingels, you know, big, from Denmark. And those are such interesting structures because they allow you to walk upstairs till the 12th floor and then go on the roof. And we will, of course, visit the penthouse of a private owner with a huge art collection. And this is all very exclusive and exciting.
Well, it sure is. And now this is also very unique. And one of the things we try to do in the Ageless Traveler is bring you to places that you ordinarily wouldn't know about, you ordinarily wouldn't go, but that really fit the profile of the folks who are real veteran travelers. And one of the things I know about my audience is that they love design, they love architecture, they love to see the inside story as you're bringing people around. And don't forget, it's marginally tulip season. Last year, I had the opportunity to go to Amsterdam for tulip season just around this time of year. So you can combine this with a lot of wonderful travel to Amsterdam. I also will tell you one of my little tricks, those of you who know about our book, Luxury for Less, it's absolutely free, Luxury Travel for Less. I explain that if you happen to be in Amsterdam and you want to go back to the US and you take Morocco Airlines, you can stay over in Marrakesh for a while free of charge because Morocco Airlines does a special deal from Amsterdam to the US to entice you to stay a little bit in their country, in Morocco. So there's a lot of reasons for you to go and not think, well, gee, I don't want to go only for a couple of days. No, this is a wonderful part of a trip. Now let's go back. We're speaking with Natascha Drabbe. I guess it's Drabbe, Executive Director, yes, and founder, Iconic Houses Network. You can see on our screen the URL, so you can go to her website. But I want to talk a little bit about some of the things you presented to us at Modernism Week. Tell us about 1 or 2 other houses, and we'll show some pictures of them that are part of the 200 that you have, so people could get the breadth of really what you've built here. You've built quite an organization. Mm-hmm. So tell us a couple of others that you really feel we ought to know about.
Yeah, there's such a wide range. There are all these UNESCO World Heritage listed houses like Falling Water or Villa Savoie by Le Corbusier. But we also have hidden gems. For instance, there is one house in Poland, which is called the Carré House, and it's the narrowest house that I know. If I spread my arms wide like this, and I'm 1 meter 74 centimeters. This is the width of the house, and everything is in it. There's a pantry, you can shower, you can study, you can sleep, and it's absolutely amazing how creative mind can make on such a narrow space a completely functional house. It's used for artists in residence, so you only live there for 1 or 2 weeks, but you can visit it also to just be inspired what you can do with tiny, small spaces. Yes. I always like to mention a house by Alvar Aalto. Alvar Aalto is known, of course, as the most important and well-known Finnish architect, and you may know him also because of his furniture and his vases. And but he also designed a beautiful house for an art gallerist, a gallerist from Paris, and the house is close to Paris. And it's called Villa, no, it's called, sorry, Maison Louis Carré, so the Louis Carré house.
Yes.
And the gallery of Louis Carré is still in Paris. And but this house is so typical Alto and still in such a good shape. So that is a real gem, and they organize art exhibitions because it was for a gallerist. He has one particular wall in the house that is very well, specially made, so he could invite his potential buyers to his private home and treat them well and give them nice lunch, and they could see the Picassos hanging there. And well, there are no Picassos now anymore, but they do have contemporary artists who exhibit there. But I also would like to stress some other things. Of course, we promote all these museums that you can
Yes.
visit. We also want people to to understand that it is important to preserve, to uh, uh, yeah, to support houses that are threatened with demolish, that they get
Yes.
demolished. Or but there's so many important houses of the second part of the 20th century that have no official protection, that are not a registered landmark. Or and you know, the moment that the original clients or owners or contemporary owners put the house up for sale, the next
Anything
owner,
can happen. Anything can happen. Yeah.
most of the times these houses are built on sites that are extraordinary, and then the houses are more humble. The modern, especially modernist houses
Yes.
with flat roofs, or the wooden structures on Cape Cod, you know, then the house isn't worth a lot in money, but the value is, of course, in experiencing the way the spaces are treated inside these homes. And so we have also an icons at risk section on our website where you can see which houses are immediately at risk. Sometimes you can support by giving a donation for the people who strive for the house to be protected. But also you can see examples of houses that have been rescued, because we want to show people that if you bring the right parties together, the heritage organizations and people and organizations who can fund new initiatives, then you can save these houses. And one of the examples that is so successful is the Villa Cavrois in the north of France. It is designed by Robert Mallet Stevens, and it was in the 30s, designed, built for a textile, an owner of a textile factory. Actually, the owners of textile factories in the 30s were the people that earn the most money, like the tech people
Right.
nowadays.
Today, yes, they are the textile Silicon Valleys.
Yes, absolutely. Also, the Villa Tugendhat, the famous Villa Tugendhat in Brno by Mies van der Rohe, was also for a textile owner of a textile company. But this Villa Cavrois I mentioned was purposely by the owner of the site left to squatters. And because the owner wanted to tear down the building and then put 6 villas on this site and earn
Of
a lot of
course.
money. And so he just opened the gate and the squatters came in and they ruined the whole interior. And it's devastating when you see those photos. And then there was a group from Paris, from a famous actor, and they collected a group of people for 10 or more years. They had a website trying to save Villa Cavrois. And then in the end, the French Heritage Organization had a multi-million restoration. And since then, the house has 100,000 visitors per year.
Wow. 100,000.
So we also want to also want to bring good news and show best practices how you can save these houses.
So I have two plugs. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention our own Palm Springs Art Museum that has saved the Lumiere House, which is Albert Frey's house. And that's opening in March, this very March, a couple of weeks, for everybody to see that. Also, Albert Frey did have a home in Palm Springs. You can visit his house, another single architect house. And the other thing I want to tell you about is Montrose Park. Now, this is an example of what you're talking about, Natascha. I lived in a historic home, Victorian. It was built in 1888, and the entire neighborhood was fairly downtrodden with graffiti, with all kinds of problems. And we all decided we're going to live there. Now it's called Montrose Park. It's a historic district in New Jersey, and in South Orange, New Jersey. And we also have our own tours. Now, I've moved from there since, but the fact is that we took a really crumbling area that had magnificent homes that were being chopped up, torn down, whatever you could think of, and preserved it. And I discovered from my research that the fellow who built that house was the first person to bring in sidewalks to the United States. He went to Belgium and he brought in what's called the Belgian block. And now we all live on the block. So there's so much history that you lose, not just the houses, but the history of those who built it. So I thank you so much. And now I'm going to ask you my last question that I always ask everybody. What's your next? I know you're working very hard on the May event, but what is your next project? Are you looking at other homes at risk or adding homes? What's the next project on your list?
Well, at the moment, there are a lot of homes that want to become a member of the network. So
Okay.
there's one very exciting that I can't mention yet, but that is one that is already for many years on my radar. And the private owners of that home have done everything to restore it and will open it this spring to the public. And so if people subscribe to our newsletter, every month we send one newsletter out and tell people which new museums are joining us. But I have about 10 houses now or more on my radar that have contacted me to become a member. But of course, like you said, May now in April, May in Amsterdam is the first thing that I work on. But next year, May, our international conference, which is about 7 days, will be held in Chicago.
Ah,
So I will go to Chicago in September to I was there also last November to meet all the important key figures that we need to make that a success, and I will go again in September. So May next year will be this conference with a pre-conference tour to Taliesin. So we will go via Racine and Johnson Wax of Frank Lloyd Wright, and also the Jacob's House 1, which is UNESCO World Heritage List. We will go to Taliesin, also World Heritage List. And then we have a program in and around Chicago with the Farnsworth House, of course, and all the important Wright houses and buildings. The Rookery will be there for a reception. We will also visit the Unity Temple, which is not a house, but I mean, if you are around the corner of it,
you have to go.
silly when you're in Oak Park, then this is silly not to see Unity Temple. And that will be new for us. We always have post-conference tours, but we always go on buses. But now we wanted to end with a private view of falling water in Pittsburgh. Well, in Mill Run, a bit above Pittsburgh. But anyway, and it's not doable by bus. So we will then fly with a bit smaller group, because the conference is always around 90, 100 people.
Right.
And then probably with a group of 40 people, we will travel to Pittsburgh. And Falling Water has offered us the house at the end of the day only for our group, with a closing reception. So that'll be the highlight of that conference.
Well, it is. It's such a highlight. And again, I want to be proud that we bring you trips travel that you would never know about almost any other way unless you were a deep aficionado of this. And you will become so, believe me, because these are really important things in terms of preservation, but also beautiful things to see. And don't forget, please do listen to our podcast. We're on Apple, Spotify, every disseminator. We're on agelesstraveler.com, where everything is archived. Of course, you'll go to our YouTube site. You will see this and so many other private, personal interviews where people are telling you things that in general, they don't even say in a podcast because we're talking one-on-one. Please also like our posts on all of our websites and all of our social media. And anything that you want to know about, including getting our free luxury travel for less book, you will find on agelesstraveler.com. Thank you so much, and never stop traveling.